Hi everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode and series of Beyond Disabilities. This year is a special year because Beyond Disabilities is 7 years old, and we're celebrating in style by speaking to some amazing people with disabilities and getting to learn about them and how they show that just because you have a disability, it doesn't mean you can't go beyond your hopes and dreams and go beyond your disabilities. This episode, we are talking to Emma. Please give a warm welcome to Emma. She is the co-producer of Beyond Disabilities. She's currently studying at university and is a gamer at Streamer 2 and a Streamer 2. Thank you so much for joining me today, Emma. Please, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Emma. I think James has just said mostly what I was going to say anyway, that I stream on TikTok, and I'm a university student for the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Emma. So we'll start off by just describing what disabilities and conditions do you have and what do they mean to you?
Yeah, so I live with like a mix of mental health conditions and neurodivergence, including generalized anxiety, depression, PTSD, and things like dyspraxia. I've got a specific learning difficulty. I also have an underactive thyroid, and I'm currently on a waiting list for an ADHD assessment. I struggled to say that then. So yeah, like day to day, that can affect like my energy and how I process information, and how I respond to stress. Sometimes in ways people don't immediately see. In terms of what it means to me, it's taken time. It's taken a lot of time to understand and accept it. For a long time, it just felt like I was struggling with things that seemed so easy for other people. But now I see it as part of like just how my brain and body works. It's definitely challenging at times, but it's also shaped how I think, how I relate to people, and why I care so much about creating space for these kinds of conversations as well.
No, thank you. That's all re really words.
That's all really words, yeah.
That's all really words. You're gonna have fun editing this. No, that's all really it's all really It's all really important, and that's one reason why I did ask you to become like the co-producer of Beyond Disabilities, because like we relate on quite a few different disabilities, but also our passion for creative, inclusive spaces and educating the wider community about disabilities as well. But if you feel comfortable, would you be able to sort of describe how and when you did get diagnosed with your disability as a condition?
Yeah, so it wasn't like all at once. It's been quite a gradual process over time. I think I've always had a sense growing up that I found certain things harder, but I didn't really have the language for it. Like I didn't know how to describe it. It was more later on when I started accessing counselling and support that things started to make more sense. Through that, I was diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and PTSD. And I was also identified as having dyspraxia and a specific learning difficulty. The underactive thyroid came through more of like a medical route when I was younger. And then more recently, I've been exploring the possibility of autism and ADHD, which is why I'm currently on a waiting list for that. So yeah, it's been a bit of a journey rather than like a single, like moment, but each step has like helped me understand myself a little bit
Yeah.
better, if that makes sense.
No, it really does make sense. Like I was diagnosed with autism and dyslexia when I was two, and similar to you, it wasn't until later on
You was
that
two.
I was two. I was 2 years old when I got diagnosed. It was all thanks to a health visitor my mum had. She noticed that I wasn't reaching my normal development miles. I say normal
Hmm.
in in inverted brackets development milestones. So she recommended me to my mum to take to the doctors to pursue an autism diagnosis. Lo and behold, I got my autism diagnosis. I was very lucky when I was two, so I know it's very much harder to get these type of diagnoses now. Um, I got my mental health conditions diagnosed in 2021. And ADHD, apparently I was diagnosed way, way back in 2004, but only really got it validated, really found that out last year. Um, so it's
Oh,
been a bit of a journey. Yeah. My former, my current, my current GPs, I was asking about potential going for an ADHD diagnosis. She looked into my medical files. It turns out I was diagnosed unaware to myself or my mum with ADHD back in 2004 when I was at secondary school. Honestly, it was, yeah, I thought it was, I know we've been hyper and I didn't really, again, like autism is a spectrum, but some traits I felt that was like, oh, well, this isn't autism, and I don't think it's just my personality, and I was right. But
you should always trust your gut feelings, really, shouldn't you?
absolutely, it's very, very important doing it, especially with disabilities. Do you remember the feelings you had when you were diagnosed?
Yeah, I mean, I think my feelings around it have been a bit mixed, to be honest. Like, on one hand, getting to understand and clarity around things has been really important for my own
Yeah,
peace of mind rather. It helped me make sense of like experiences that I'd had for a long time. Like I said before, like not understanding and like trying to understand why things take longer, why things are harder for me when they should be so simple. Like I'm seeing other people do them, and I'm like, why does that take me so long?
not that that's completely understandable, and I hope you do get your diagnosis for autism and ADHD. Definitely help. What was your family's reaction when you got your diagnosis?
Um, I haven't really shared a lot with my family. Not
Yeah,
because I'm like hiding it, but because I've noticed quite a few like similarities, especially on my mum's side of the
yeah,
family, in how like people are experiencing things. And I think part of me worries about like labels or people feeling like there's like something like wrong with them, when they've been just getting on with life in their own way.
yeah.
So I've kind of held that quite gently. Like for me, it was understanding myself better, but I'm not sure how like my family would necessarily want to view things that in that same way. It's a bit of like a balancing act really, like between personal clarity for myself and being mindful of how others might receive that information.
Well, that makes sense. Like, it's like nobody should ever feel pressured to share anything they don't want to with the family. And at the end of the day, it's how you feel is the most important thing, especially with disabilities. And like, firstly, well done for pursuing these diagnoses without letting your family know. Like, I know it couldn't have been easy.
Yeah, I mean, I told my dad
Yeah,
after I got diagnosed. I didn't tell him when I was getting
yeah,
assessed, just because I was like, I don't know why I always like didn't want to tell my family because I didn't want them to think that I was like stupid, which sounds
yeah.
stupid, but yeah.
No,
Like I don't know, I just didn't want them to think like, oh, she's dyslexic, she's stupid. Like I don't want her in my family. I don't know how to explain it. It was just like I was always scared of being open about it because I was just like, I don't know, I felt like they were gonna see me differently.
no,
But
yeah.
I think I say my dad was supportive. Like he was supportive, but he didn't really understand it. But I think after he'd had a chat with my stepmom,
Yeah.
her daughter is also dyslexic. So when she went through university, she also got diagnosed at the same time. So I think that conversation between them kind of like helped my dad understand. And like there was, yeah, he tried to help, but at the same time, there's not really any way that you can help with like dyslexia.
No, I completely understand what you mean. I mean, it just proves that in 2026, there's still sort of, I'm not saying your dad is, but there's still sort of a taboo around discussing disabilities and openly, and that some people, is it
Sorry.
it's similar to coming out in terms of your sexuality if you're like not straight or queer or part of the LGBTQIA plus community. Why did I sing that? Um part of the LGBTQIA plus community as well. But again, it's your own personal business. Nobody should ever feel nobody should be discriminated because of disability, even though very obviously people are, and especially from family, like whilst they might not understand, it's about trying to educate them and sort of signposting to support for yourself, and if they're interested, helping them to try and understand as well. So next we're going to talk about sort of your individual disabilities and conditions and sort of how do they affect your daily life. Um, so first off, we'll start with dyslexia. How does your dyslexia affect your daily life, and how does it affect studying at university?
Yeah, so my specific learning disability, which is like including my dyslexia,
Yeah,
mainly affects like my reading and my writing, and stuff like that. So things like essays can take me longer, especially with like structuring ideas and getting them down. Like one of my biggest struggles is like I'll have ideas in my head and I know what
yeah,
I want to talk about, but it's getting words onto a page. And it's like it's always been such a struggle for me. And like it was the same all throughout high school as well and college. And it's been even worse because obviously you've been to university, you know what
yeah,
university essays are like. The expectations that like they expect from you is just like, oh, I don't know, it's completely different to what I kind of expected. So
yeah,
it's I don't know, it's just been difficult, but I'm quite lucky in my course that with it being TV and radio based, it's a lot more practical rather than like
yeah,
purely, purely essay focused, which suits me better. But it's still like the few essays that we do have, I always feel like I'm having to rely on like ChatGPT and Grammarly all the time. Like obviously not to write my
no, no,
essays
not at all.
um for me, but to kind of structure it and help like I'll put my ideas into there, like say like this is what I'm trying to say, can you help me word it? And then I'll obviously take that and reword it again to like be able to do it. I don't know
No, it
how to
makes
explain the
sense.
process, but yeah, it's just yeah.
No, it completely makes sense as well. And I suppose you're at university at a very fortunate time in terms of technology because when I
Mm.
went to university 84 years ago, back in 2011, the first time around, there's no such thing as AI, and we didn't even have things like Grammarly to help either. Um, I'm not dyslexic myself, but I use ChatGPT regularly for like everyday things like writing emails and stuff and things like that. So I do understand how helpful it is and a good tool to be used for people with disabilities and especially neurodivergent disabilities as well. Yeah, you're completely right. The universities do expect a lot. It is on a completely different level, understandably so. But does the university have support mechanisms to help you? Do they support you with your disabilities?
I mean, in terms of support, the university disability team have been quite helpful, especially when I first got diagnosed.
Yeah.
They provided me with equipment and software. So like I got a laptop, I got like a microphone. I'm trying to think now. I can't think of everything off the top of my head. But like they basically gave me stuff like that on a printer as well, so I could like print out slides and like make
Yeah.
them bigger. Um, but yeah, and then they also gave me stuff like Grammarly and note-taking apps, which I use constantly. They're a lifesaver. Um, but yeah, I think that's just made a big difference. I also get access to like extra time if I need it. So like when it comes to written work, I can get an extra 7 days. Um, but yeah, I use like text to speech and structured like planning to help break down my work. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much everything. I did have some sessions as well with the company who diagnosed me. They basically like had a few sessions with me and they were like, oh, well, can we focus on like how you'd use this software, how you'd use this
Yeah.
equipment, and they basically did like a few weeks like testing with me to make sure I understood it, and find a few different like ways for me to do things that helps me figure out like what's going to be useful and what's not, basically.
Oh, that's really good to hear. It is a really good thing at university, specifically in support. I remember when I went to uni that I got similar to you. I got a printer, laptop. I think I got a microphone as well and things like that. So if you're applying to uni, even if you're already in uni, I don't think you have to apply for it at the start of the course. If you think it would be useful, reach out to like disability support teams at university, because like they can give you lots of equipment, even equipment that you might not have even thought would have been useful or software that you might not know existed. How does your dyspraxia affect your daily life, Emma?
My dyspraxia mainly affects like my coordination and organization in day-to-day life. So things like time management, processing instructions, or like physical bleh, coordination tasks can be more of an effort or require more conscious planning than they might for other people. Like it can show in small ways, like needing to think more carefully about how I structure my day, or taking a bit longer to do tasks that involve um, organization or sequencing steps. But I'd class myself as a pretty like clumsy person. I'm always like bumping into things, struggle to multitask at times, mixing up words, which also doesn't help with my dyslexia. And like I feel like we had a conversation about this the other day as well, like how um dyspraxia can also affect like how like speaking. Because
Yeah,
like you're
that's right.
saying that like I don't know, sometimes your brain goes quicker than no, you other way around. Your words are coming out quicker than your brain's processing things, and then you can just like stumble over your words and mix them up and all sorts.
I know we relate on a lot, especially with our dyspraxia, and like, I have the exact same difficulties with it, like, especially with hand-eye coordination. I can't walk in a straight line to save my life. Can't do shoelaces. I can drive a car though. That's completely fine. Can't park in a straight line, but we won't talk about that. I can dress myself, but when I was younger, I struggled a lot with buttons. Something I do occasionally still struggle with now. I get socks on the wrong feet, just out myself, but that's okay. What support mechanisms do you have, or do the can? Do you do the can? What support mechanisms do you have, or use to help you with your dyspraxia?
So in terms of like support, I've developed a lot of my own strategies over time. I rely quite heavily on like lists, reminders, and breaking things down into smaller steps so that things feel more manageable. I also use like digital tools to help me organized, and I try to plan ahead as much as possible so I'm not doing everything last minute.
Yeah,
Um, and I've also found tying shoelaces I do better. Or like if I'm tying like say some dresses have like belts on them that you tie
yeah.
up. I've found that if I don't look at it, I find it easier.
It's not stupid, and I'll tell you for why. I sometimes close my eyes as well when doing certain things because I feel like my eyes lie to me. Again, that might sound stupid, but it works.
Literally, like it's weird because say I've just got this new dress that has one of those like belts that I was on about a minute
Yeah,
ago. I tied it at the front and I really struggled.
yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'll try tying it at the back. And I did it first time. And I was like, that's so strange how I can do things without looking, but I struggle to do it when I'm actually looking.
It just makes me think, and again, I've not really looked into the science of it, maybe I should, but with dyspraxia, I feel like there's a miscommunication between the eyes and the brain. Like your eyes see one
Yeah,
things and the brain interprets it
I mean
in a
it's to
different way.
do with like your hand-eye coordination,
Yeah.
isn't it, really? So again, it does make sense thinking about it now. It's just like how your brain and your hands are doing. Like,
It's
oh, I
true.
don't know.
No, you're
Yeah,
exactly right. You hit the nail on the head because I do exactly the same thing. Like, especially with buttons, that's something I do really struggle with. But if I close my eyes, they're perfectly lined up. So we're now going to move on to um dyscalculia and how it affects your daily life. But I just wanted to add on to that last bit about the spatula. It's all about really, in my view, it's about finding what support mechanisms work for you. Like even if two people have the same disabilities, it doesn't mean that they're going to be exactly the same. And it's about trying and finding what does actually work for you. But how does your dyscalculia affect your daily life?
my dyscalculia mainly affects how I process like numbers. So mental maths can be challenging at times, especially when I'm like under pressure as well.
Yeah,
One of the main areas I notice it with it one of the main areas I notice it with is like managing money.
yeah,
For like for example, I work when I'm working like behind the bar, handling cash, I always struggle with like the calculations in my head to give back the right change. Um, and like some tills now um do tell you how much change you need, but before I've been in places where they didn't have that, and I've
yeah.
had to either sit and try, well, not sit, but like stand and work it out for a good while before I figure it out, or I've had to have my calculator up on my phone, and then it just makes me feel so silly. And then like that, obviously when you work in and you've got customers waiting, they can be quite impatient. So it makes me feel under pressure. So I'm quite happy that most places have tills now that that do the maths for you. But yeah, I tend to be like slow with things in terms of that. Like double check. But I make sure that I like double check amounts. Like I said, using till can be difficult. I make it and make sure I'm being method. I can't say that.
Methodical.
Method. It's methodical instead of trying to rush. Um, but yeah,
I don't have this calculator, but I can certainly understand how it would be difficult, especially in a job where you're required to deal with money and numbers all the time. I completely I relate to that. Yeah, I struggle as well. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's why I'm so glad that most places take card now because I'm not a cash person because I always struggled, especially when I used to work in a shop. That was really hard when people used to like do the coins, and it always used to confuse me one thing where people said, "Oh, I'll give you the. Do you want the 5p?" I was like, "Well, I can't say no to that," but then they just mucked my whole thought of brain thought
yeah,
thought. What's the word? Train of thought. That's the one.
yeah,
Really confusing, but again, it's another use of where technology is really helpful in those situations and it can definitely support you at work. Do you have trouble with the dyscalculia, like with budgeting and things like that? Or does that not really affect it?
I mean, I don't know if it's my dyscalculia. Yeah, we'll go with that. Or if it was like, well, I was guessing my ADHD, my potential ADHD, but I'm just an impulse buyer, so I feel like that's a separate issue to my dyscalculia.
Oh, I relate to you with the impulse buying. This was before I got diagnosed, but it just,
Yeah, I
just
can
nice to
tell
get things.
James ordering me a book I recommend people to buy.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you. It'll be here in the next hour, or maybe it should be less. It should be there now. I know you're on a waiting list for autism and ADHD. Um, how did you first recognize you might have these conditions, and what traits did you potentially see?
It's something that's kind of like always been on the back of my mind for quite a long time. Like my brother first mentioned when I was younger that I might be autistic, and it was something that kind of like stayed with me over the years.
Yeah,
Um, like I always thought because he was like, I don't know, I never really thought like much of it when I was younger, but then growing up, I was just like learning more about autism. And obviously you see it like all over social media and stuff now. And like, obviously, I know a lot of them are like not always 100% accurate, but
Yeah.
I did start like researching it through like the NHS and stuff like that. Um, and yeah, like as I got older, I also ended up with a lot of friends who were on the spectrum, and I started to notice similar similarities. I
You can have a
noticed
bit
like
of fun on that.
similarities um, in how we experience things or like approach situations, and that like helped me reflect more on my own experiences rather than seeing things in isolation.
Yeah.
Um, and like more recently, when I went for my specific learning difficulty assessment, it was actually suggested by them that I explore into autism and ADHD assessment as well. So that's what's
Yeah.
like led me onto the waiting list. So it's been like a combination of personal reflection, lived experience around me, and professional input rather than one like moment of realization.
That makes sense. That's a unique journey, but I'm glad it's happened. And I don't mean that in a bad way. But it just shows that, oh yeah, the fact that you went for your specific learning disability, is that the right? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Specific learning disability assessment, and then they recommended it. It's quite useful. And hopefully, fingers crossed that you can, if you do want them, if you want the autism and ADHD diagnosis, because I know you've got support already, but I think in yourself, it'll make you feel sort of a lot more validated, if that makes sense. I'm not saying you need validation
yeah.
right now, but I think that definitely, and it'll help you access support too. Um, whilst you wait for those diagnoses, have you discovered any support mechanisms to help with these? Whilst you wait for a diagnosis, have you sort of what do you do to sort of potentially manage your potential traits of autism and ADHD? I say manage,
I
I
mean,
mean like help cope with.
yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like just like talking to friends and talking about how they relate has helped me understand myself a lot more than anything. Like, I don't know. I feel like I don't really know much about like support and like if there is like professional support I can get in the meantime. It's not something I've really like looked into, but I
Yeah,
think honestly, like I said, like just talking to friends that have been diagnosed and seeing how like the similarities that I have with them. And obviously they've had like some of them have had like professional support to understand like you think this way because of this and stuff like that. And it's just like it's helped me understand myself a lot more as well. Um, which obviously I can get more for myself
yeah.
whenever when and if I get diagnosed. But yeah, it's just kind of like that waiting game at the moment to get that assessment, really.
Well, I hope you don't have to wait too long. So you said you commented that you had an underactive thyroid. I know not many people might understand what an underactive thyroid is, but please describe what it is.
Yeah, so it is something that like I've only really learned about after being diagnosed. But
Yeah,
I know that my mum had it, well, has it as well. But like an underactive thyroid is a condition where like the thyroid gland in your neck doesn't produce enough hormones. So like those hormones basically are what help regulate things like your energy levels,
yeah,
your metabolism, and like how your body functions day to day. It's something that's managed with medication, and it can often take quite a while to get the right balance. You've got to get like a lot of blood tests, and it's a bit of a nightmare to begin with. But I think it took about 2 years to balance and be on the correct dosage for what I needed. But I'm on like 125 a day
yeah.
of the levothyroxine. Um, but yeah, it's not something like really think about day to day. but it's part of like the overall picture of like how my health affects my energy levels alongside like everything else. Um, but yeah, yeah, it's just like one of those things where it's like hereditary. So when um I was feeling like my energy levels low and stuff like that, there was like a few other symptoms I can't really remember because I was quite young at the time.
Yeah.
Um, but basically, my parents were like, "You might want to get like, we might have to get you tested for this because it's something that your mum's got." Um, but yeah, it was just yeah, a lot of blood tests.
Oh, bless you. Like I know from personal experience, not for myself, but for my mum, she had an underactive thyroid as well. So I do sympathize a lot with like the daily management, and she did eventually have hers removed, but leading up to that, she was obviously trying to avoid surgery. But yeah, she similar to you, note the medication and blood tests leading up to it, it's a lot. Um, so I
Yeah,
do
maybe
sympathize.
I'd still have to go for blood tests every 6 months to make sure that the levels are still right because even though it's leveled
Yeah.
now, 125 could be too much at some point, or it might not be
Yeah.
enough at some point. So I still have to like get checked every 6 months just to check to make sure that it's still like the correct dosage.
Oh, fingers crossed. Hopefully, I was going to say sort itself out. That's the wrong word, but hopefully it continues to be manageable and hopefully it doesn't affect your daily life too much and that you can continue coping with it as well as you are. So how does your underactive thyroid affect your daily life, Emma?
So for me, it mainly affects like my energy and how fatigued I feel, and sometimes things like concentration as well. It can feel a bit like everything is running slower in the background, and it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's like some days feel like they're in slow motion.
Yeah,
Do you know, like those days where you feel like you're dreaming, and everything around you is slow. I don't know how to explain it, and I feel like it's one of those things where if you haven't experienced it, you probably won't
yeah,
understand. But I found out quite recently that that is to do with my underactive thyroid. So I found that quite like interesting to figure out.
yeah,
Also with like my underactive thyroid, it's also put me on a lot of weight over the years. Um, which is one of the main reasons why I went to go get tested in the first place. Because as a kid, I really struggled with my weight. Like, even though I was like quite like active, as a
yeah,
kid, um, yeah, it was just something I always struggled with, and it also affected my periods as well. Because I've always had them like irregular, and I've had to be on like contraceptive medication
yeah.
from the age of 16 to regulate them. So it's been a bit of like a pain, but that's also caused me to not bleed at all, which has been stranger. But yeah, it's kind of like it's a strange thing, like how it's like this thing in your neck and it can control so much of your body. But yeah, it's just like it's affected so much more than what I thought could be possible from this little gland.
That's really fascinating, honestly. Like I didn't realize about the time perception. That is fascinating. I don't think my mum experienced that. But yeah, it controls so much. And then again, I wasn't personally experiencing, but I was experiencing it through my mum when she had her thyroid problems. Um, it does affect you a lot. I know my mum, for her, I'm sure she won't mind me saying, but it affected her moods. Like she can be like similar to you with the energy, but her actual moods as well. So she could just be really happy one moment, and then it could just. I know it sounds similar to bipolar, but she's not got bipolar, and then she could be really down the next or angry, and the
Yeah,
littlest thing can like tip her over the edge. Um, and I think that was one reason why she just wanted it surgically removed because like she just wanted it over and done with, especially like
yeah.
she's got like other mental health conditions. I won't go into that as well, but they're sort of increasing it tenfold. Um, but yeah, thank you, Emma, and that you can continue coping with it as well as you are. But that is it for part one of Beyond Disabilities. Please look out for part two. I just want to say thank you very much to Emma, but we will see you all again soon in the second
It's
part.
been
We
a
continue this amazing.
pleasure.
I just want to say thank you all for listening to part one of this amazing episode with Emma. Thank you to Emma for joining me. Um, remember, you are loved, and that love is enough, and that no matter what your sexuality, disability, gender identity, or disability or body size, everybody is beautiful. And as you're happy with yourself and your disabilities and your body, that is what is matters. And finally, remember that just because you have the disability, it doesn't mean you can't achieve your hopes and dreams and goes beyond your disability. And all podcast episodes are available on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in part two.